The next thing of old business is the windmill project. Just to update everybody, we have from Optimum Energy, they have emailed us. They are making their circuit trip around this local area. They're interested in coming out and speaking again or finding out what our thoughts were. I know that we have discussed it. There has been, as I've mentioned in previous meetings, the town of Fenner has repowered their windmills. It led for a lot of discussion as far as pilot programs, so on and so forth. So basically, to update our township, fortunately for us, I feel that we've been able to be the recipients and be on the right end, for once, of the learning curve. So Fenner has had a huge learning curve, and Madison County's, how do I want to say this? For years, their take on pilot programs have been to encourage the county, encourage the individual townships to grow, and in order to do that, that they would accept a pilot program. Typical pilot programs through the county are 15 years, and it's a graduated tax, so that the township can still participate. The schools typically will participate. The county bows out. So typically, in the past, the township ends up picking up a little bit extra for that pilot program to grow and kind of establish whatever may need to be done in that local township, giving incentive for these businesses to come into those townships. What has happened since then is windmills. There was some discussion going back and forth if they could have a second pilot. Could it be through the county? Do they have to reach and go outside sources? So basically, the town of Fenner, the windmills have been repowered and kind of re-renovated. So, but with that being said, the county is taking a look at the idea of they're still going to allow the consideration of pilot programs, but they are putting together a pilot policy. Because along with that, there are other things that are looming out there. New York State has some rulings that with energy programs, if it deemed advantageous, I guess, for the state, that they could come in and they could, you know, with a panel and suggest that that program be allowed, whether we want it as a township or not, or anybody else. So that was a major concern with the county. We've had legal staff look into that particular governance to make sure that we were accurate on that. So since then, the county is working on the idea of, like I said, that policy. And coming away from that and listening to all of this, what we have done and what our attorney has done is sent a letter to Optimum telling them that before anything is done, any zoning changes are done, any consideration is done, that basically they have to come back with an environmental assessment study, a letter of what their wishes are to be, and what they're looking for. But in the meantime, some of the things that we've thought about and maybe we should consider is like a focus group. So I have done some more homework. I've had some conversations with actually a doctor of physics who has been to different townships and has gone around speaking to different townships and entities about energy programs, so solar, windmills, etc. He is He had a wealth of information and had a lot of good information, and suggested that he could either come and speak, he could do a Q&A, he could do a phone conference. What some other townships have done is basically they've put together, little focus groups. So, you may have some residents that want to volunteer, that maybe even have a specialty in that area. And then maybe somebody or one or two people from the planning board, one or two people from the town board, putting something together so that they can encapsulate and summarize some of this. So this group to do a lot of the legwork and do a lot of the homework. I know that there is some question as far as how many windmills, how far apart are they going to be, what the wind noise is. Apparently there is a lot of things out there that are way beyond my scope of understanding that we need to consider. And what I will also say, as a resident, more so than anything else right now, is I really think that the town of Lincoln should also, we as a board should consider putting together some type of strategic plan. That focus group should probably even consider helping the board put together some type of future strategic plan, because what's happening is, to give you just an update, and I hate to use Fenner and make them feel like I'm throwing them under the bus, but since this windmill repowering, they are being approached by solar energy, and the idea that it could be a very, very large solar farm. So then our question is that what we want? Is that what we want in our community? Now, granted, Fenner's not our community, but it's a community right next door. And if we have a wind farm, is that what's going to happen to us? And then all of a sudden, the community that we want our children to grow up, or we want to grow old in, or whatever, we moved here for certain reasons. We don't have more of a strategic plan than what's it going to look like in 20 years or 50 years. And if we go haphazardly and say, yeah, sure, let's do this for this particular business, not thinking about Lincoln as a whole, what will it look like? For example, there are some large farms that have been purchased just recently in Lincoln. Now, one supposedly is an alpaca farm. I haven't seen the alpacas yet, but hopefully they'll come, and it won't be a hemp farm. But that was one of the possibilities. I know that there is another large farm in Lincoln that is considering selling. Now, that's the other thing. That's agriculture. Hemp is agriculture. So I really think that maybe in the strategic plan, we put together and we think about putting some changes, some local laws, governing, what does Lincoln consider? For example, our dairy industry and, the farmers are in desperate need of money if they're failing. So I empathize with them. I certainly don't want to tie their hands and prevent them from making some money or selling some property, but at the same time, maybe not to the highest bidder either. And if we can have some type of, plan put together, I think we really need to focus on that sooner than later. I can't emphasize that enough. And it's not just for Lincoln, it's with all the townships. Like we have a strawberry and tomato greenhouse on Elm Street in Lonsdale. If marijuana gets passed, will it continue to be a strawberry and tomato greenhouse?
Exactly. You agree?
I hate rumors. I
No,
hate conspiracy theories.
I'm not saying a rumor, I'm asking. I'm just asking. That's my thing. And I'm saying,
Sunset Produce does not have any other history in growing marijuana.
I know that. But I'm just saying, who's to say they'll own it forever, is what I'm saying, So those are the things. Strategic plan, long-term plans. I think what I would like, and Jim, you can tell me what we need to do or whatever, but if we need some type of resolution, or if we kind of take some names, but maybe we take some names of volunteers from both boards and community members and see about putting together some type of committee. Now, do we need to do that? We don't really need a resolution to do that, correct?
I would gather the names first and then do
Right.
a resolution appointing the,
Okay,
creating a committee and appointing the members.
okay, all right.
Can I clarify something? Is this a focus group specific to the windmills?
Yeah,
And
I think
the
that's-
strategic plan group is a different committee?
No, well, I guess we can talk about that, but I
Because
think.
one's a subset of the larger.
Right, and I
So-
think the immediate focus will be that we really need to be able to address the company that has approached us last year.
Right.
Has a Met Tower up,
Mhm.
and where do we stand there? And what are parameters? You know, if we're going to consider it, what are the zoning parameters? What are the restrictions that we're gonna put in place? And then from there, I think that just kind of develops that whole idea that as that group finds more of this information out and says, okay, well, we really need to be able to do this, this, and this, when we start to look at that, then I think that will give us a better idea of, you know, the rest of, you know, what the future will look like. Yes.
At the expense of the same reaction, ESD has money out there for strategic planning for municipalities.
ESD?
Empire State Development.
Oh, thanks. Empire State Development.
Ironically, I sent it to Scott Meyer this morning to ask him
No
how easy
way.
it is to access.
Really?
So I'm waiting on a response from him to see if that's accessible.
So for strategic plans?
Correct. So I'll let you know when I hear back from him on
Oh.
how accessible that money is.
Is that
Okay,
more
so I can tag your name?
Yeah.
So that's not, I don't have to put to do Y on that. Oh, great, perfect. I like that.
No, the
Jen.
county helps right. So the county also, county planning will facilitate those meetings and get actively engaged with that.
Oh,
Just, they typically, I think it's Sarah and Stefan does them.
Okay.
They just help Morrisville with theirs.
oh, perfect, okay. Okay.
What is strategic planning? What do they do? What do they do? What? Just out of curiosity.
You can go ahead.
Oh, okay, so strategic plans are basically the visionary plan of your community. I mean, Jim, feel free to step in wherever too. So in theory, you'd have a portion on community development, a portion on economic development, renewable energy use, and basically the vision of where the community would like to see the community go. And you use that to outline your land use laws and do an audit of your land use laws and see if that's consistent with what the community is looking for, and if not, then it gives you some ground to move forward with.
And for me, another, I guess, comparison is a business plan. The business
Right.
owner.
And essentially, the one we have now is from 2012, we talked about.
Is that a strategic plan or is that a farmland
It's
protection plan?
comprehensive.
Comprehensive plan,
Oh.
I should say. So that's
Similar.
kind of similar to what you're discussing.
Right, ours is, I believe, out of date.
Yeah.
Any other questions or input? So basically, everybody here, we can have Amy put it on the website that we're looking to form a focus group. Oh, yeah, yeah, which as Russ mentioned, as I know and as everyone else should know, you know, the ag and market, so certainly, you know, wanting to be able to continue to help that, but at the same time, you know, maybe there's an idea or part of the strategic plan where we can help foster that versus what do we, yeah. I mean, I do know that a couple of farmers have, you know, presented their concerns with what type of programs or projects will allow. Are we going to allow the wind farms? You know, what other type of renewable energy projects are we going to allow? We have a growing Amish community that like it here. And their farms are pretty and they are good neighbors. So those are some things we should consider. Okay, so hopefully we'll get some names and volunteers for our next meeting and we can go from there.